guys are here, the house is on lockdown. I'm calling the airport, you're all going up to New York.
By this time tomorrow, she'll finally be safe.
Honey, why don't you go upstairs and pack a few things?
But first, they'll have to survive the night.
I know where you are. I'm coming for you.
In the Miami suburb of Davie, Florida, 15-year-old Kristen Bellotti is putting the final touches on her latest single.
Kristen had a voice since she was little. Since she was 2 or 3, she was definitely born with a gift.
She had everything that you need to be a star. She had the looks, she had the personality, she had the vibe, the voice, the style.
Dinner time, hon.
Just a few more minutes.
No, now, young lady.
Since her divorce 5 years earlier, Kristen's mom, Louise, has been raising Kristen and 12-year-old David on her own.
Kristen, would you please say grace?
Okay.
Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts.
At that time, I was very active in my church, and my children were at church 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
20 miles south, Kristen's father lives by another set of morals. Michael Bellotti is the proud owner of Secrets, a popular skin bar in North Miami.
When Michael Bellotti walked into one of his clubs, he had an aura of power. A lot of owners hang out in their club. They want to be around the pretty girls.
Hi, boss.
You say no.
It was actually the opposite. He had the drive where he wanted to be rich.
But not everyone chalks up his success to hard work.
Some people were afraid of Mike Bellotti. They didn't know what he was involved in.
Everybody kind of assumed or stereotyped Michael as to having potential mob ties because of the strip clubs, and he wore black. He's from New York.
There's no evidence Michael has ties to the mob. Still, he surrounds himself with a serious amount of muscle, including his eyes and ears, Big John Pacciana.
Michael didn't play games. He was somebody you wouldn't want to mess with.
But when it comes to family, Michael Bellotti is a teddy bear.
How are you? Everything's all right?
Hi, Mike.
Once an avid churchgoer, Michael was a devoted husband to Louise for 12 years. But the two split after he left the faith for his now less than holy business model.
We're just finishing up dinner.
Still, Michael treats his ex like gold and his kids like platinum.
Hey, Jen.
They were close to their dad. They loved their dad.
But nothing puts a smile on his face more than his princess.
Hi,
Hey, baby girl.
He loved his daughter very much, to say the least.
She is the apple of his eye. She can get anything she wants from Dad.
Am I gonna see you at the studio this weekend?
You bet. I booked the best place in Miami.
When it comes to Kristen's singing career, Michael pulls out all the stops. He even books her studio time at Miami's Hit Factory, where everyone from James Brown to David Bowie have recorded legendary albums.
All right, Christian, here we go. Let me hear that big, beautiful voice. Lots of emotion. Let's bring it. And rolling.
He pulled strings with people he met through the strip club industry to introduce her to some of the best music producers. He bought studio time for her.
Miss Jones, we all thought was clean.
He basically funded all that for her to go and record a demo.
So, what do you guys think?
Bravo, bravo. That's my girl. I told you. She's going to be the next big thing.
As far as Michael's concerned, nothing will get in the way of his daughter's success. But one day at the movies, a tall, dark, and handsome distraction walks into Kristen's life.
Hi.
Hi. What's your name?
I'm Kristen.
Richard.
What'd you think of the movie?
17-year-old Richard Rojas is a high school football star from South Miami.
Richard was cute. Can definitely see how women would like him. He dressed well. He was very fun and definitely wanted to have a good time.
And his looks drive some teenage girls crazy.
Richard was extremely attractive. So, of course, Kristen wanted to talk to him.
So I was thinking, maybe I could get your number and go see another movie sometime.
Well, if you want to take me out on a date, you have to come to my house and meet my mom first.
Okay.
After a few days flirting on the phone, Kristen's ready to risk introducing him to her family.
Mom, this is Richard. Richard's my mom, Louise. So he came in and sat down and talked to me and told me about himself. Do you go to church, Richard?
Not exactly, but I do have a Bible.
I don't believe Richard was religious. I don't recall him ever having a strong religious background.
Though she would have preferred a boy from their church, Louise can't deny the sparks between Richard and Kristen.
I think they were as much in love as two teenagers can be.
Well, Richard, you seem like a very nice boy. And I know it's quite a drive from Kendall here. And you're welcome to stay here, but you're only allowed in the house when I'm at home.
Of course.
And you'll sleep downstairs. And Kristen will sleep upstairs with Meg.
And he was fine with it.
Thank you so much.
He became like part of our family on weekends. If we went to church, he went to church. He never complained. He was too good to be true.
Eventually, Louise bends her own rules, permitting the young lovers to hang out on their own.
I trusted them at that point. After all, they're growing up. He's 18 by now. She's 17.
But one thing's missing from their relationship.
I asked Kristen not long after meeting Richard, I said, hey, have you slept with him? She was really religious. She's like, I'm waiting till I'm married. I'm saving myself.
Never felt like this anymore.
I know. It's crazy.
Hey, it's our song! Yay!
They had a song, and it was Here Without You by Three Doors Down. That's just how it was when young and in love. Very cheesy.
Kristen and Richard are swimming in bliss. But there's a storm brewing on the horizon.
Your first love ever is always going to be the strongest. You're not scared of getting hurt. You don't know better.
Just outside Miami, aspiring teenage pop star Kristen Bellotti is madly in love with her boyfriend, Richard Rojas.
He was just Mr. Wonderful. He was kind, he was sweet, he was respectful, he was handsome, he was strong.
After a year together, Richard is spending most weekends and holidays with Kristen and her family.
You're looking good, man. You ever thought about trying out?
He literally lived in the house for part of the time. They gave him a key to the house. They trusted him with their daughter.
Even Kristen's father, Michael, has taken a shine to Richard.
I'm really glad you came by, Richie.
And according to Jesse Jacks, Michael lets Richard pump iron at a boxing gym that Michael co-owns.
They were all watching these fighters train, and Mike's like, hey, why don't you, get in the ring and try?
See this guy here? He's a former Golden Glove champ. Why don't you jump in and go a few rounds with him?
I don't know. I've never boxed before.
Come on, he'll take it easy on you. Yeah, it's a good workout.
Okay.
So Richard puts on the gloves, jumped into the ring with someone who had won the Golden Glove championship.
Come on, Richie. Protect yourself at all times. Come on. Chin down, hands up. Come on. Come on, keep moving. Stick and move. Stick and move. Come on, that's it. Jab, jab. That's it. Stick and move. Stick and move. Come on. Stick.
And Richard, never having boxed a day in his life, knocked him out.
Come on, man. That's it? That's all? That's all you got?
Michael Bellotti was a little scared after seeing what Richard was capable of.
Soon, Kristen sees another side to Richard, too.
Okay. Are you ready to listen to this? I've been working on it all week. I think it's going to be my best song ever.
Wait a second.
Baby, I want you to listen to this. It's important to me.
All we do is listen to your music.
I could have been famous. That is all ego. I'm really, really good and everyone should love me.
One day, according to Louise, Richard's jealousy gets the better of him.
Kristen, can you give me a hand in the kitchen?
He would go through Kristen's phone, look at her messages.
Yeah, who's this?
He started calling people and saying, "Who are you? How do you know Kristen?"
Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. It's the last time you speak to her. You hear me?
What the hell is wrong with you? Josh, I'm so sorry.
That's when she started thinking it might be time to move on from Richard.
After months of tension, Kristen says she makes a painful decision to pull the plug.
I don't care what you want. We're talking about it.
I thought you loved me.
I can't do this anymore. They definitely loved each other. That kind of pain, when you love someone like that, is very difficult.
After the breakup, Kristen focuses on her music and her mom's church. And during a Bible class, she finds someone who makes her smile again.
And A minor again.
And then A minor.
You're an excellent student, I gotta tell you.
His name is Julio Eddie Arce.
He was really smart, and he wrote poetry. He understood music more. It doesn't sound as pretty as
Bridget, a little more like that. You're gonna get a cleaner sound.
He was almost the opposite of Richard. Kristen had had enough of the bad boy thing.
This goes here. This goes here. This goes here.
I think mostly Kristen wanted him to be her friend, so perhaps Richard would realize she was moving on, and then he would move on.
But that's easier said than done.
It wasn't just a breakup between Kristen. It was a breakup between the family as well. He talked about Kristen, her mother. That was his family.
Richard would call and burn up the phone to try to find out where she was, who she was with.
You wanna pick it up?
No, I'm not gonna say.
And Kristen, to be fair, would call him back.
Hey.
Kristen,
Yeah.
I love you. I'm sorry. I miss you.
Richard, I miss you too, but you can't keep calling.
Don't pretend like you don't love me.
I gotta go.
But young love never ends so easily.
When I came in the door, I saw Richard was in my house. He was on the stairs with Kristen.
You know that you're not supposed to be in this house when I'm not home.
We're breaking up. I'm not gonna see her anymore.
You have to leave now. Why was Richard so angry?
Because I'm seeing Eddie tonight.
Honey, I have one more errand to run. We're gonna talk about this when I get back, okay? Okay.
Kristen was supposed to pick up Eddie Arce at the Hollywood YMCA.
I'm finished, so I'll see you soon.
But minutes later, Kristen hears something downstairs. Her mom just left. Her brother is out. No one else should be in the house. But according to Kristen, one person never seems to stay away for very long. After a 2-year relationship, it appears that Richard Rojas and Kristen Bellotti are finding letting go almost as hard as being together.
Richard, you have to leave now.
I was just thinking this kid is hurting. It's time for this to stop.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm figuring this is it. This is the final breakup.
Honey, I have one more errand to run. I'll be right back.
Louise left to go out and run some errands. Richard Rojas had apparently returned.
Across town, Kristen's new boyfriend is getting nervous.
Eddie Arce and his brother are all at the YMCA at that time.
Hey, babe. Can't wait to see you. I'm waiting.
His mother and his brother leave him there because he's getting a ride from Kristen. Kristen's coming to pick him up.
But as the afternoon fades, Eddie can't help but feel stood up.
She's 2.5 hours late picking him up. He's sitting there. He's angry. He's thinking, where were you? Where have you been?
Finally, Kristen shows up.
What's the matter with you? What the hell took you so long? Kristen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell.
It's not that.
What do you mean? What happened?
Richard raped me.
What? When? What happened?
My mom came home and she kicked him out, and then she left again, and as soon as she left, Richard came back.
According to her, he said, "You're not going to break up with me." He starts to grab her. She says, "No, I don't want to do this. Leave me alone."
He grabbed me by the arm and he threw me down. He was like, "You know you still want it. You know you miss me."
And throws her down and forces her to have sex with him.
That son of a bitch. He's gonna pay for this.
What's going on?
She was very upset and acting kind of weird.
You have to tell your mom, Kristen.
And she said, I'm not telling her anything. I'm not telling her that.
Kristen, what?
If you don't tell her, I will.
After you left, Richard came back.
I'm in complete shock.
He broke into the house.
I can't believe it, and I can't believe that this happened on my watch.
It's not the first time he's raped me.
Kristen told me that he had been doing it before, that he had been coming in at night.
What? Why haven't you ever told me this before? He said if I ever opened my mouth that he'd hurt our family. We have to call the police. No. Mom, please. I don't want anyone to know.
She didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to have to go through this.
Louise said, "If you don't want me to call the police, we're not going to call the police."
And please, Mom, don't tell Dad.
Down deep, she knew. She told her father there was going to be hell to pay.
And when she tells her mom, I don't think she counts on her brother, David, overhearing it.
Dad, you gotta come home. Richard hurt Kristen.
Michael Bellotti braces over, enraged that anyone would dare hurt his princess.
Where is he? Where's this little scumbag? I'll kill him.
Jesus, Michael, he's not here. Put that thing away!
What happened?
Richard raped me, Dad.
What?
He's been doing it for weeks.
Doesn't sound like Richard.
Dad, Richard hasn't been himself in months. He's been breaking into houses, he's been running with a gang.
I don't know what a gang.
A month ago, Marinette and I ran into him in the parking lot, and he opened his trunk, and he showed us a gun, and I asked him, "What is this, Richard?" And that's when he said he was stealing, and it made sense, because he had a lot of money. Daddy, there's something else.
What?
He said he's coming back here tonight.
Said I heard enough. He's dead.
Michael didn't call the police because he was going to take care of things his way.
Hello.
John Paciano received a call at the Secrets, the strip club.
I need you to round up the boys and come to Louise's house. Pronto.
You got it, boss.
John, bring the fire.
John Paciano went to the safe at Secrets, got his gun, and asked Wayne Palazzola to drive him to Mike's. He told Wayne, "Mike needs us." John Paciano was described as basically a door filler. I mean, he was 6'5", and behind him was another big guy. Wayne Palazzola, like 5'8", 200 pounds.
Michael gives John the lowdown.
Scumbag hurt my daughter.
Michael Bellotti made Richard Rojas out to be a professional boxer, built like a linebacker, and that he was this kid of such great physical superiority, and that he felt he couldn't adequately subdue or deal with this kid if this kid showed up.
Michael focuses on the next order of business.
All right, everything's all right. I got this. My guys are here, the house is on lockdown, and I'm calling the airport. You're all going up to New York.
After an hour or two, it passed. This guy's going nowhere. He's not coming back.
Honey, why don't you go upstairs and pack a few things and then get some rest?
Upstairs, Kristen finds a Three Doors Down CD, the very album she and Richard fell in love to.
It's right in the middle of her bed, according to her. And she's in her room before that, looking around for a picture.
The CD, I just found it on my bed, Dad. It was not there 20 minutes ago. Richard must have broken into the house.
She comes down and says, he was just here, and he snuck in and left this on my bed.
Daddy, he could still be here.
Just as Kristen Bellotti and her family feel like they're out of the woods,
Honey, why don't you go upstairs and then get some rest?
their safety feels threatened all over again.
Daddy, he could still be here.
It validated in Mike Bellotti's mind the story that this kid is some super burglar. That Richard left that CD there as a way of telling her, you're not safe. I can get in whenever I want.
That's it. Everybody out. You too, Louise. Get your things. Wayne, drive these guys to my house.
I'm not going anywhere. This is my house.
This kid is nuts, Louise.
I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, but Big John's going to stay with you to watch the house.
While John Pacciana stays behind with Louise, Michael has Wayne Palazzola take the kids back to his house.
Kristen Bellotti, Eddie Arce, and David Bellotti that get in John Pacciana's Lincoln Continental. The car is being followed by Mike Bellotti's SUV.
I really didn't want anybody there, but my ex was scared. He was scared Richard would come back. I didn't think so.
Hello?
Louise, what the hell's going on?
Richard?
Where's Kristen and Eddie?
Richard, that's none of your business.
Tell Eddie I'm coming over there to kick his ass.
Who was it?
Richard, he said he's coming over.
I shut off all the lights and I went to bed. I was just praying that he wouldn't show up.
But Louise isn't so lucky.
She hears two males arguing.
I'm here to see Kristen. I'm getting inside that house.
You're not.
I tried to go to my window and it was pitch black. I couldn't see anything. And then I heard the shots.
Within minutes, Davie, Florida police are responding to a 911 call from Kristen Bellotti's home.
The police were informed that apparently a subject was trying to break in and that someone had been shot. The subject was identified as Richard Rojas.
Starting with Louise, detectives learn about the alleged rape and how things spun out of control after.
She was really scared that he was here.
But it's really Pacciana who they want to talk with.
So what happened tonight?
He comes up. He says, I'm coming in to see Kristen. He tries to get past me. I grab him. He punches me. I punch him back. A little fisticuffs, no big deal.
They break up. There's some words.
The kid wiped his mouth, looked at John and said,
Hit like a bitch.
Pacciana's concerned that Rojas may try to run into the house.
So I start walking back to the house. As I'm walking back, I feel something in the back of my head.
He says Richard pressed something up against the side of his head. It felt cold, it felt hard.
He says, I'll kill you. I don't know if it was a gun or what, but at that point I was scared. So I reach into the house, I got my gun right on the counter. Point it once, shoot, twice, shoot. It all happened really fast.
If Richard Rojas was on the warpath, it sounds like a clear-cut case of self-defense.
We conducted 4 interviews right off the bat. Louise, Kristen Bellotti, Mike Bellotti, and John Pacciana.
He's been breaking into houses. He's carrying a gun around.
He said he was a thief. That he's been stealing.
How many times do we have to go over this? I don't know if it was a gun or what, but I was scared at that point.
But for all they've heard about Richard, cops wonder if Pacciana's life was really being threatened.
We never found any weapon that Richard Rojas possessed.
Did you initiate any phone contact with Richard tonight?
And I asked Kristen if there was any phone contact between her and Richard Rojas in the time prior to him showing up at the residence.
No.
Not at all. No calls to or from Richard. Eddie Arce?
The following day, detectives track down their next witness.
You mind if I ask you a few questions about Tuesday night?
yeah, I wasn't there though.
Eddie Arce seems to go along with a lot of things the other people are saying.
Seemed like he was mixed up in some bad stuff.
They ask him the same question Kristen answered the day before.
From 8 o'clock on, did Richard ever call Kristen?
Later.
Richard called her.
Richard called her later
We were in the car on the way to her dad's house, and the phone started ringing.
It's Richard.
She puts on speakerphone. The first thing he says is, "Why are you starting?"
Tell my leave you alone and start crap up again.
What are you talking about?
She tells Eddie, here, you talk to him.
He wanted to talk to me. He knew I was in the car, and so I started talking to him. Why are you raping my girl, man?
What? Rape?
And Richard's response is, no, she wanted that. And then he asks, who are you? What are you doing with her?
Kristen, why are you hanging out with this scrub?
Scrub? This scrub's with your girl, man.
Where are you? I'm gonna come kick your ass.
And Eddie doesn't know what to say, because he's in a Lincoln, I don't know, being driven somewhere. So he covers the phone and looks, puts his hands up.
Stuart, I know where you are. I'm coming for you.
He must have gone to Louise's after. The conversation leaves detectives with a big question mark.
This was a case of self-defense. Why would there be a need to lie to law enforcement?
Later that day, the results from the rape exam come in.
There was DNA present that matched that of Richard Rojas, but there was no trauma found. The results in and of themselves would not indicate rape over consensual sex.
Next, investigators comb through Richard's cell phone records.
Kristen Bellotti had told us that Richard Rojas had been calling her all hours, calling her numerous times a day.
But the records tell a more complicated story.
There was still some form of relationship between the two. There was always phone contact between them, and it wasn't just one-sided.
But with conflicting accounts and evidence, investigators have a puzzle with several missing pieces.
Based on all the information we obtained, we definitely felt there was a lot more to this case than just a simple self-defense.
Bless us, O Lord, in these.
In the days after Richard's death, Kristen's family attempts to put the past behind them, and so does Eddie.
After the homicide, Eddie Arce saw the chance to inveigle himself into her life, and successfully did so.
Thank you so much for making dinner, Luis. This all looks amazing.
Eddie's staying at the house. He's basically living with Kristen.
Hey, what are you, that one starting without me?
Hi, Dad.
You say, Eddie, how did you spoke to the cops today?
Yeah, it was all just general questions, really.
Everything all right?
Yeah.
After Eddie talks to the police, Mike kisses him on the cheek and says, "You're family now."
But not everyone is making peace with Richard's death.
Mrs. Rojas, the Bellotti family has said that Richard broke into their home.
My son a burglar? No, you're not realizing how absurd that sounds.
Is it possible that your son was part of a gang?
Absolutely not.
They were dumbfounded when they found out about the allegations.
The Rojas family, from the start of the investigation, conveyed that Richard was not involved in any criminal activity, involved with gangs, that he didn't carry guns.
In fact, police struggle to confirm that Richard has committed any crimes.
There would be police reports. There would be evidence. There's none of that. Richard was never arrested, never convicted. Nobody's ever made a complaint or said a bad word about him except Kristen Bellotti.
And there's one allegation from Kristen that stings Richard's family more than all the others.
They did not believe that Richard Rojas was capable of raping Kristen Bellotti.
I just couldn't imagine it. It was shocking.
Is it possible that your son was stalking Kristen Bellotti?
Richard stalking Kristen. Do you know how many times that girl would call this house?
She never stopped calling.
Hey.
Kristen?
And I think that was what kept him on the string. She was torturing him.
But Richard was moving on. In fact, hours before his death, he was on a first date with a new girl.
Richard was so excited to go on this date. After the date, he called me.
Oh my God, Vanessa, she's gorgeous.
He took her to Starbucks. It went really well. He was on a high. He had such a good time.
I mean, she's so smart. I swear I'm like in love or something. Yeah, it's crazy.
In my mind, Kristen wasn't even a thought in his head.
Talk to you tomorrow? Cool. Bye.
Shortly thereafter, he was asleep in his bed at home.
But if Richard really was in love and moving on, why did he call Kristen at 1 a.m.?
Why are you starting problems?
This is the real unfortunate part. We cannot ask Richard Rojas these questions.
though no one, including Big John Pacciana, has been charged with a crime. Investigators don't believe Richard's killing was in self-defense. But as months pass, they still lack definitive evidence to prove their hunch. Meanwhile, Kristen Bellotti slips down a dark path.
She was very different. She was always sad. She was definitely traumatized by this.
And that's when I believe she really started doing drugs and drinking.
After a year of spiraling down with her, Eddie wants out.
I can't keep living like this. I think you need help. I think you have a problem.
I don't need help. I don't have a problem. If you keep going like that, you're gonna have the problem.
Eddie has a relationship with Kristen, and he's terrified of Mike. He believed that Mike was connected. Eddie stays in that relationship, but is terrified the whole time he's in it.
Finally, he sees a chance to escape.
You're gonna be great, alright? Kristen, she was being sent away to rehab.
Alright, come on, Eddie. Let's go.
He kissed her goodbye. She went to the facility. He left.
And he never looks back. Eddie moves to another part of the state. But in January of 2008, his dark past finally catches up with him.
He always knew at some point that they were gonna come.
Since breaking up with Kristen Bellotti, Eddie Arce has been living in fear of her family. He always imagined his role in Richard Rojas's death would come back to bite him one day. Looks like today is that day.
Remember us? What do you want?
Police have been waiting 2 long years to prove that Michael Bellotti and his associates lured Richard Rojas to his death. Now, with Eddie Arce out of the Bellotti circle, detectives seize their chance to nail down their missing puzzle piece.
We'd like you to come down to the station and answer a few questions.
The complex thing about conspiracy to commit murder is, unfortunately, you need a conspirator, someone who's in the inner circle, to bring light to the conspiracy.
And Eddie is more than ready to play that role.
You know, what happened here was completely messed up.
So what happened?
I was supposed to keep my mouth shut, that's what happened. I just can't live with it anymore.
He was at the point now where he just didn't want to continue lying.
So,
Eddie explains that on the night of Richard's death, he overheard an angry Mike Bellotti make a dark plan.
This kid's an animal. I'm thinking about calling up north to take care of him.
Don't do it, Mike. I got this.
When I heard him say that, I knew exactly what he meant. They were gonna find Richard Rojas, one way or another, and as Mike announced, they were gonna kill him.
Eddie believes their plan was to get the kids to safety in New York, then go after their target. But when Richard called Kristen in the car, Bellotti and his men decided to carry out the plot that night.
So, then Kristen hands me the phone, and I don't know what to say to this guy. And that's when Wayne started whispering,
Hey, come on. Mess with him. Let him know you want to fight.
tell him you want to fight, we'll grab him. But I was terrified. But after that, I just did whatever they told me to do. Why are you raping my girl, man?
Where are you?
I'm gonna kick your ass. So again, I don't know what to say. I don't even know where this guy's taking us. And then Kristen whispers,
Tell him you're my mom's house.
Now, Eddie knows that's not true, but he's being directed by Kristen to say, you're at Louise's house. He knows that somebody's waiting back there, but he doesn't think they're gonna kill him. I'm at Louise's. Come and get me, bitch.
I'm on my way.
The trap worked like a charm.
Kid's on his way.
Mike Bellotti is calling the house, speaking John Pacciano, and they're formulating a plan that when the kid comes back, they're gonna be there waiting for him.
On his way over, Richard calls Kristen's house to make sure Eddie doesn't bail.
Where's Kristen and Eddie?
And then we hear that he's pulling up to the house.
Eddie's statement allows investigators to piece together what happened next. Richard arrived at the house angry, but unarmed.
And Pacciano gets to the front door, reaches inside to a shelf, grabs a gun. I believe that actually when the second shot is fired, he is already down on his knees. The poor kid was just executed.
What he's just described is a murder conspiracy. But who was calling the shots? Michael Bellotti was clearly determined to punish Richard and protect his daughter. Pacciano definitely pulled the trigger. But what if they had it all wrong? Detectives go back to everyone's testimony from the day Richard died.
I swear I'm like in love or something.
I believe Richard was done with Kristen, and I do believe that that day he was telling her, we're done.
Oh, we love each other, right? I thought you said there was nobody else.
There's someone else.
I think she knew that he was going on a date that night. I also think that pissed her off.
Not breaking up, Richard. It doesn't happen like that.
Done.
No,
I think she knew that that was really the last time she was going to see Richard. I do believe that Kristen didn't want to let Richard go.
Cell phone records support this theory, especially one call right after Richard left Kristen's house the first time.
He doesn't just come back, he comes back at her calling. She initiates these calls to him.
Please, let's talk about this. Baby, just please come back.
Based on all the information we started to gather, I did not believe that there was an actual rape.
I believe that there was consensual sex. If she had sex with him, maybe he'd stay.
We should do something tonight.
I told you. No plans tonight. See you later.
Richard.
Like, you just had sex with me, and now you're gonna go see another woman? And I think that's when things triggered.
Come back here! How dare you walk away from me!
And I think for the first time ever in their relationship, Richard got the better of Kristen, and she did not like it.
Richard raped me.
What?
Prosecutors believe Kristen offered up the rape story to get closer to Eddie and to somehow get back at Richard.
And it worked. Eddie Arce, when she said that, Eddie Arce's initial reaction was, she's a victim. And he pulled in closer to her.
That son of a bitch.
She was going to keep it between her and Eddie. She didn't count on Eddie Arce being a very, very stand-up, good person.
If you don't tell her, I will.
And once Kristen told her parents, things moved into overdrive.
Where is he?
I think Mike Bellotti really thought that Kristen's allegation was true. And his reaction to that was he was going to take his own revenge.
He's dead!
But prosecutors don't believe Michael Bellotti was planning to act right away.
Dad was going to take his time. I don't think that was good enough for Kristen. I think Kristen wanted it done. And that's why Kristen then says,
Said he's coming back here tonight.
And as it got late into the night, with no sign of Richard, prosecutors believe Kristen's hunger for revenge spurred her to step up her game even more.
This idiot, they just found it on my bed, Daddy.
What Mike Bellotti is hearing his daughter saying, a lot of good you are protecting me. While you're here, this kid, right under your nose, sneaks in, and it was at that point the fuse was lit.
That's it, everybody out.
All of a sudden this changed to, just get him out of the house immediately, and we're gonna handle the kid.
And prosecutors know that Richard did not initiate the phone calls that followed.
At 1 a.m., there's a call placed from Kristen Bellotti's phone to Rojas's phone.
This time Richard's still sleeping. She knows he's not coming back to the house. So she has to initiate contact and somehow get him to go to the house. That's diabolical.
Hello? Kristen?
I think she leaves the phone open so that Richard hears her talking to another boy. Richard calls her back.
Every time I leave you alone, you start crap up again.
And when Eddie is pushed to antagonize Richard,
I'm at Luis's. Come and get me, bitch.
I'm gonna come.
Richard takes the bait. Hook, line, and sinker.
On my way.
He was going there to clear his name. That's why he went back over there. Because I'm not gonna let you accuse me of rape if I didn't rape someone.
The phone call, initiated by Kristen, is the nail in Richard Rojas's coffin. All the pieces fall into place, just like Kristen wanted.
It could have been a simple lie that got out of hand, but Kristen could have stopped it at any point. And she never did.
Everybody there was manipulated by Kristen. Every time things would calm down, she threw kerosene on the fire. Mike Bellotti, Kristen Bellotti, John Pacciano, Wayne Palazzola were all indicted for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
Wayne Palazzola pleads guilty to accessory to first-degree murder and is sentenced to time served, plus 10 years probation.
And the jury came back guilty, as charged on Mike Bellotti and John Pacciano.
Both men have received life sentences.
Kristen Bellotti, they convicted of second-degree murder. They couldn't convict her of count 2, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
Kristen is currently serving a 30-year sentence.
She's the beginning, she's the middle, she's the end. She's the entire story here. Every time this could have been put to a stop, she pushed it forward.
A grand jury believed Eddie Arce was under heavy duress that night, and therefore never charged him. Police do not believe that Kristen's mother, Louise, was involved in the conspiracy.
Richard did not deserve to die. His life was lost at a very young age. Who knows what he could have been? He could have ended up having a great life, but they took that away from him.